All right, welcome to the show, Jeremy. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
So we've been chatting a little bit, but can you tell our listeners a little bit about yourself and where you're at, a little bit of your journey and what you're doing now?
Sure, that's a long story. You may just go now for the next hour. So I'm in Iowa, obviously the middle of the United States. Probably shouldn't say obviously, maybe everybody doesn't know that. I've been, from a business standpoint, I've been self-employed for the most part of my entire life. I'm 48 years old. I did about 35 different jobs by the time from 18 to 21 years old, just jumping from everything they had. I worked at most of them for about 2 weeks and didn't like it. Went to college to go get a business degree. When I was in college, I answered an ad to go work for a telemarketing company. So this was 1994, 95, something like that. And the job was perfect. They were going to pay me $8 an hour, which was pretty good money back then for a kid with no experience. They were open 8 to 9, 7 days a week. And all they cared was that I found a way to get in there and work for 15 hours a week. So as flexible as you can get.
Wow. That
took
was
the
great.
job. I took the job. I was pretty good at it. By about month 3, the manager of the telemarketing company I went to work for, mind you, this is back in the telemarketing days. It was brand new. Everybody didn't need to get telemarketing calls. There weren't do not call list. I mean, it was cool. It was the business to be in.
Right.
Manager says, "Hey, I'm getting ready to leave and start my own company. I want you to come be my right-hand guy. I'll teach you how to build a company, but you got to quit college and you've got to commit to 70 hours a week with me."
Wow. That's a big difference.
It was. And I was flattered because this guy was a stud. And I was flattered that he chose me out of, the 70 employees that he had underneath him. And so I said, all right, I'm in. And so I did, and he did. And over the next 3 years, we built a telemarketing company where we did fundraising, and we were on the cover of Forbes top 50 telemarketing companies in the world. And he taught me how to build a business. And that was the last job I ever had. I resigned after that, after 3 years, because the stigma of telemarketing and it worn on me. I was done.
Well, and it had changed quite quickly. Like, as you said, in the beginning, it was fine because it was a new thing. But after a while, then people started to hate getting the calls.
That's exactly right. And then it became the point where I didn't like going home and telling people what I did.
Right.
So I jump into the mortgage business, which was the hot new thing in the late 90s. Interest rates had fallen through the floor, home values were through the roof. If you had a pulse, you could get a mortgage. I built a really big company in Iowa, mortgage brokerage. I did that for 7 years till the bottom fell out of that business with the housing bubble.
Right.
Then I jumped into the life and health insurance business, chasing the baby boomers. So I've been doing in that business now since 2007. I built a $30 million practice in about 3 years, wrote a book how I did it, sold my agency, and then I've been on the road for about the last 8-9 years, whatever the math on that is, traveling the country and helping insurance agents and agency owners build their practices. In between there too, I also started and partaked in about 3 other different type businesses, from a pizza franchise to a couple other investment type opportunities. And so I've kind of really evolved accidentally into becoming just a natural business coach, or a national business coach, I guess you should say. Most of my clients are in the life and health insurance business, but I somewhat got a range of experience with a lot of different venues. But I've been self-employed since I was 23. It's been 25 years, and I don't ever see something really went wrong if I'm putting an application in somewhere.
Right. And I completely understand that. And so so many questions at first. So let's talk about your book. So you wrote the book. What is your book about? What does it help people do?
Yeah, so, and I should preface with, it's not a book that you can go out and buy on Amazon. What I
Oh,
really, what I really wrote was I wrote an operating procedure. So I spent, I mean, 3 years, we got to $30 million. I had that agency for 6 years, and I had a mentor my entire life. I've always had a mentor. I've had two of them. And the thing that he really impressed upon me was to write down everything. And so I documented every sales meeting I ever had. I documented all of our marketing processes and sales scripts and presentations and all of the forks in the road decisions that I had to make in building the agency, and really wrote a really comprehensive SOP or playbook for how to build an insurance agency. And so it's all been tailored. And so now I spent some money and some time and made that very legible and professional. And so now it's a playbook that I teach from and offer out to insurance agents and agency owners.
okay. And I mean, that makes sense. It's from all your experience over the years, I'm sure it's a great tool to have available for yourself and for everybody for your training.
Yeah, and it's always just it's grown and got better through the years, because for the last 8 years, I'm going into different agencies. Not all of them struggling. Some of them doing really well, where I've stolen stuff from them. You know, what's working for them, or and improved things. At this point, the playbook's not even. It's probably only about 30% stuff of mine that I used to do, and it's really evolved into a greatest hits type manual for people.
Well, and I mean, but that's part of business, right? That's what we need to do. What worked, I'm going to say in any business 10 years ago is not working today, right?
Yeah.
So as part of business, as time evolves, technology changes, everything like that, we have to be willing to change as well. So any type of book like that or procedure like that does have to evolve over time, because even if I look at stuff and if I'm Googling something, even, and if it's an article, I'm always searching for a date. Like, when was this article written? Because if it was written in 2016 or 2017, I don't really want to read it, because chances are with a lot of things, it's now outdated information.
Yeah, that's right. I don't know if Zoom existed in 2010 or 11 or 12 or 13 or 14 of the years I was building my agency. But if somebody told me it did exist and they said they were going to go talk to someone and sell them a financial or insurance product all on the internet, I would have told them, not a chance you're ever going to make that sale. And now half the sales, they don't even meet face to face. So technology changed that a ton too.
Yeah, I don't know about Zoom. I think Skype. Was,
that was the first one, wasn't it?
One of the first kind of video call things was Skype.
Yeah, and I think it did come. I think that was about the era, the early 2010s. I think somewhere in there, you're right, it did pop up. But you certainly weren't. People were talking, having meetings through that. I don't think many people were doing sales.
Yeah, I think it was more just one of those things that if people were traveling and they could connect with family and friends in different cities or traveling or something.
Right.
Yeah, it wasn't really. I think honestly, I mean, I'm sure there was video calls and things going on, but really the pandemic is what changed everything for it.
Yeah, that definitely escalated big time. Everybody's acceptance to doing things not face to face.
Right.
Yep.
Right. So yeah, it's things have changed so much in the last while. And so as we've said, a good business has to evolve. It has to change. It has to change its marketing plan, how it's doing things. So what do you find? You've been in several different industries, and maybe there's a few different things within each, but what do you find has been the biggest struggles or problems that people are generally dealing with within their business?
Well, I have been in some businesses that are retail type businesses. The majority of the businesses that I've really been in, both feet dove into, are based around sales. Okay. And for the last 8 years, I've traveled around and I've met with a whole lot of people that have their hand in the air that say, I'm stuck. How do I grow my business from where I'm at? And almost always there's a common thread that they almost all have. And that is that they get so focused on how am I making money? How do I make money? That they forget a lot of the fundamental things that are so essential to that question being answered with ease. So, for example, again, I'll speak from my familiar and I'll talk about the insurance business for a second.
Okay.
There are so many people that get in the insurance business and they get their license and they get some insurance contracts, and now it's time to go out and sell some insurance. And so they are so centered and focused around how do I get in front of as many appointments as I can, and how do I close as many of those appointments, how do I sell as many things as I can. And it's like any business, it's hard in the beginning, right? You know, so the sleepless nights of, am I going to be able to pay my bills this week or this month? That's, you get in this bubble. And I can't tell you how many times that I have met people that are self-employed selling something. I've talked to them year 2 or year 3 into the business. They're hanging on by a thread, or maybe they're making a little bit of money, that have never went back and incorporated their business, that have never went back. Oh gosh, yes. They've never went back and got QuickBooks or financial softwares to keep track of their recordings. They've never went back and really learned the tax game. All the fundamental stuff that if I was a business person, be the first things I did.
Right.
But they're coming in as insurance agents, or they're coming in as salespeople. And it's a totally different mindset to think about your business from a sales standpoint versus a business owner standpoint. And if you think about it as a business owner standpoint first, it makes your sales business so much easier.
Right.
So I don't know, that's the first thing that came to mind from a common thread.
No, that's, I mean, I'm actually just completely shocked by that, because in my mind, I mean, similar to you, I've been self-employed since my early 20s. And one of the first things that I did when I decided I was going to start my own business is I took a business course.
Yep.
And just, it was, oh gosh, I mean, we're going back 20 some years. I think it was like 1 or 2 days a week. It was part of the college that I was at, and just went through and I learned a lot from it. And yeah, so it was just, as you said, some of the basic things, and incorporating, and, you know, just Excel spreadsheet was how I was keeping track of money that was going out, what was coming in, all my expenses, everything like that, because I just needed basics just to begin. And then obviously evolving more from there, and finding, you know, that not always is my own home country the best place to be incorporated in. I can incorporate in other countries, save more taxes, not have to worry about as much paperwork and things like that. And always learning though. So I'm still doing the business, but I'm always learning what's new, taking a business course, accounting and psychology, like always kind of building on myself for the business.
Well, you're showing your age a little bit now. No, now I've never met you before this phone call, and you're beautiful, and I would never guess you to be the age you told me we were before we got on this call. But you know, if you talk to somebody who is, I don't know, let's say they're above the age of 35. We were indoctrinated into, what do you do after high school? You go to college. You get the education.
Right.
Now,
and then you get a job.
Now, less and less and less people are going that route, and they're jumping right into the business world. And, you know, again, I can only speak from the United States, but when I was in high school, I had to take 4 years of geometry and algebra and stuff that I never used once in the real world. We didn't have a business class that was a mandate anyway. We didn't have shop class. We didn't have, cooking class, anything that was actually going to be useful in life. And it's still that way today. It's, bureaucracy. But because of that, and because of the way that younger people think now, when I go into sales organizations, or I go into any business for that matter, people have just jumped in.
Mhm.
You just
Well, I'm
jump
just gonna
in.
start a business. It's easy. I can just be on YouTube and post on social media, and now I have a
Right,
business.
right. And you know what? Even if that is your business, even if you are a social media person, first of all, so one of my big things is my big passion plays now is I've got a YouTube channel. I'll plug it. It's Jeremy Smith Academy. There is good stuff on there, even if you're not an insurance agent. But even if you're just being a social media person, man, I've learned over the last 3 years, there's all kinds of business elements that go into just that business.
There
That
is.
it's not just pick your phone up and do a selfie video and place it on. I mean, that might be what you start with, but eventually, if you're going to turn into a real business, there's a lot more elements that go into it than that. That even I had
Mhm.
to learn the hard way.
It's a lot of work. There's a
Yeah.
lot of things, because then it becomes like, it's one thing, as you said, we can do a quick little video. It's great. It's for our friends. It's a hobby. No big
Right.
deal. It doesn't really matter. But when it comes a business, it's a new ball game when it becomes a business.
Well, so obviously you have a podcast. The biggest podcast in the world is Joe Rogan.
Hmm.
If you listen to his story, what he talks about all the time, when he started his podcast, it was a hobby. It was just for fun, so he could talk to his friends. Podcasting wasn't even a big thing when he started.
Right.
And now it's I don't know what his annual income is, but he's
It's a
doing
lot.
okay.
He's doing okay.
But he evolved it, turned it into a real
Mhm.
business. And at some
Mhm.
points, people have to, if you, and I know we're not specifically talking about social media, but at some point, somebody reaches the point where they say, all right, I dipped my feet in.
Mhm.
Maybe it was on accident, maybe it was deliberate, but there's
Mhm.
something here. And I want to make this a career.
Right.
Well, in order to do that, in order to really make that happen, unless you're one of the very few people that just got really lucky with the niche that you're in, you got to
Mhm.
start thinking about it as a business
Mhm.
and putting that I'm a business owner mindset on versus I'm just doing what I know right now. If you can step back and do that, it'll make your pace so much faster and so much
Mhm.
easier and so less stress.
Mhm. Yeah, I agree. And even if it's, they can still be working on it and doing what they're doing, and it's not, as you said, to step back a little bit, it can be just a few hours a week
Yeah.
working on business essentials, learning some new business stuff, some basic accounting, until you get to the point where you're hiring an accountant or a bookkeeper and things, because you have to know these things that we do ourselves. Because how do you hire somebody who's better than you? Because that's the ideal goal. But you have to know the basics to hire somebody that's better than you. Because if you don't know, and I've seen it happen, that people will hire, let's say, a VA, for example, and there's so many amazing VAs out there. But the person will come in, they're like, oh, I'm hiring a VA. I need you to do all my social media. You have experience with it. Okay, just do it. It's like, well, that's like your brand. That's things about you. You can't expect them to do the job that you would do or how you would do it or the way you want it if you just say, yeah, just take care of my social media, post once a day, look through, see what I post, and go ahead. Like, there's really a lack of training. And that's where, as you said, when you were doing your things, writing everything down, how you did everything, making
Yes.
have those operating procedures. So and I use the social media as an example, not that somebody's just like being a social media person, but I don't know, 80%, 90%, 99% of businesses have a social media presence. And so if you're going to spend the time to do it or hire somebody to do it, you want to make sure it's done right.
My mentor always said to me, if your business can't operate without you, you don't have a business.
You're self-employed.
Yes. And so in order to accomplish that mission, you better be able to drop Johnny out of a helicopter with your playbook or your manual and him be able to go duplicate what you did wherever you dropped him off at and be successful and not have to call you every 5 minutes. If you get to that point where that's done, now you can scale your business. Now you can grow it. And eventually, I mean, to me, people always ask me a lot of times, I've done a few podcasts, I've done lots of different events. And the question always comes up to me of, what do I view success as?
That's a
Right. That's always a big, broad question that people use when they haven't put any thought into a good question. But my answer to that is I've got a whole lot of friends and associates that have a lot of money.
Mhm,
and they work their tails off.
mhm,
And I've got a whole bunch of friends that don't have any money
mhm.
and have all the time in the world. To me, the pinnacle, what success is for me, it's not a dollar figure. It's just having control of my time and my money at the same time.
That's a good
And
answer.
I mean, in order to do, I can do all the things I want to do, and if I
Mhm.
want to go do it, I just go do them.
Right.
And so if anybody watching this agrees with that, and that is a vision that looks like happiness to them, I'm telling you that there's a couple fundamental things that are involved in that. And the big one's what we're talking about right now is writing a playbook for where we're going. Another one, and boy, this was something that I really struggled with in my early years. People, you'd read books, you'd listen to inspirational speakers, you'd listen to success stories, and they all were goal orientated.
Mhm,
I was never a goal orientated person. I just
mhm.
went to work
Right.
and I wanted to make as much money as I could. But I never took the time in my 20s, heck, even through my early 30s, to ever really paint in the picture of where I wanted my business to go and what I wanted to look like in 2 or 3 or 5 years. And as I got a little older in life and I took the time to sit back and paint that picture in, what I found in all my businesses was I made very different decisions on a daily basis because I knew where I was trying to get to,
Mhm.
versus just approaching every day and I'm going to go work hard and it'll all work out in the end.
Right.
Because for me, always turned into the rat race of I might make $30,000-$40,000 in a month, but I had to go to work the next month to go make money. I spent that money, or I allocated that money, and I had to go work it, do it all again, just as hard to go pay the bills or pay for what I just bought that month before. It was a never-ending circle until I painted that picture in, and I made a very clear vision for what I wanted my business to look like. It made my daily decisions different. And I honestly, I think that if you just do those two things, it'll put you on a pathway to be able to control your time and your money a lot faster.
I agree. And time, to me, time is our most valuable asset.
Sure.
We only have, well, we don't know how much. And when it's up, like it's up, you can't buy more time. And one of the things I find too, especially when people maybe are just starting out, or they could be in business for a year, but they're feeling that overwhelm of, well, I still got to do the social media, and I still got to reach out to so many clients, and I still have to produce what I need to produce, and I still have to do all these things. And they sit down every morning or in the evening and they think, okay, I have to do all these things today. And they just like, okay, what should I do first? Or maybe I should do this. Oh, and I'm going to open that window on my computer because, oh yeah, I've got to do that. I'm going to do that. And even then their day is more spread out. So when you do like what you've done and said, okay, in 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, this is where I want my business to be, then they can go back and say, okay, well then over this year, what do I need to do kind of on a monthly basis? What do I need daily? Do I need to contact 10 new clients a day instead of contacting all day 30 people and then not contacting anybody for a week, and then 5 days later contacting 30 more people and then not contacting? And to make it more consistent every single day also becomes better as well.
Yeah. And, on that note, in my experience, one of the most important things that a self-employed person has to do is say no.
Mm-hmm.
Because as you grow and the more people you meet and the more people that are in your circle, the more ideas come to you, the more options come to you, the more opportunities come to you. And you can't say yes to everything. There's not enough
No.
hours in the day.
Although I'd like to, I have a little bit of that shy. Oh, I could do that, or I could do that, and it's like, no.
I get it.
I tell myself no. I have to tell myself no.
If you don't get excited about all those opportunities, you're probably not really, your DNA is really not an entrepreneur. Entrepreneurs love the mess of, oh, things are coming at me right and left, and now to me, I had, again, this was taught to me by someone else, but one big step process that helped me so much with that is I start every single day. I've got my morning routine,
Mm-hmm.
and then when I get to my desk, I spend 15 minutes and I write my to-do list, as elementary as that seems, on what I've got to get done today. And I prioritize that to-do list. And that drives my entire day. And inside of that to-do list, in the morning, when my brain's still really fresh, and it's not normally the first thing, but it's definitely in the AM, I always set aside a time slot, whether that be 30 minutes or so, that has nothing to do with my mandatory things that have to get done today. And all I do for that 30 minutes is that is my innovative 30 minutes, where all I do is, that's where my creativity gets to run wild about, all right, these new ideas that have came to me, how do they help me get to this 3-year goal I'm trying to get to? Or do they not? And if they don't, they're out. But all of a sudden, Skype is a thing now. I wonder if I can use that in my business. Things that come to me. And I love, that's my favorite 30 minutes of the day, is trying to figure out what new ideas are out there that I could innovate my business to be at. And when that bell goes off, my creative side is over. I'm back to this is the things I know I've got to do now. I'll revisit that tomorrow morning at 10:30. And, I'm a type A personality. And so what I really want to do is I want to revolt against structure. Okay. I don't want to have my whole day scheduled out.
Right.
And I don't. But inside of that day, I got to get this crap done. I got to get this mandatory stuff done. And I've learned that if I in the morning say, these are the things that have to get done, I've got my little time slot for my creative. And then these are the things, if I've got time afterwards, I'll get to. Even though I don't like structure, it helps me so much in making sure that at the end of the day or end of the week, I've accomplished and I've moved the ball down the field.
That's very much like me. I hate the word schedule or list. Like even when I say them, I almost like cringe a little bit. I'm like, and I don't know why. It's been, and I get like, sometimes I will do the lists and I'll be like, I hate doing this, but then I go through and I, cross stuff off and I feel great. I'm like, wow, I've got this stuff done. It's good for me because then I know what I need to do. I just do it, it gets done. And then because otherwise sometimes like, oh yeah, I have to do this. Oh, but I have to do that too. And then, but that, and what's more important. And it's just, even if it's 10 minutes here, 15 minutes there, 20 minutes there, it just adds up over time. And I would rather have it where it's like, these are the things I know I need to do, get them done. And then I can put together all that 10, 20, 15 minutes, 5 minutes throughout the day that add up. And then I can do something that's like, okay, great. I've got all those things done. Now I can do whatever I want to do.
Well, psychology 101, right? It doesn't do you any good to put a goal or a vision out if you're not going to have a reward for getting there. So, the first, and I'm just like you. And so if the first thing that I hate the most about my daily life right now is I've got to do all this paper pushing, I've got to do all these mundane things that I hate doing, then my first thing I want to figure out, this first step is, how do I get to the point where I can hire an assistant to do all the things that I'm not good at and I don't want to do? That's my first goal right there. What are the things I got to do? A roadmap to get me to that spot. What are the roadmaps after that I get to hire this person so I have to do that? Because the ultimate goal, probably one of your first major goals, is to get to the point where all you're doing is the stuff you want to be doing.
And I had this exact conversation with a friend of mine today. She's got a website. She's been working on it for a very long time. And she sent me a message and she just said, I'm so tired of this feeling like I hate doing what I'm doing. I'm so tired of it. I'm getting that feeling more often than not. So I just messaged her. I'm like, do you want to have a chat? And I basically, like, with her, we're great because I can just cut to the chase, get right to the point. And I said, look, you have 3 options here. You either continue to do what you're doing and you be miserable more days than not and hate what you're doing. And she said, and I want to cry in public. And I'm like, don't do that. That's, that's really bad if that's how you're feeling right now. I said, so option A is you continue to do that and you change nothing and you just try to push through. Option 2 is you sell your website. What can you get for it? She said, well, I could probably get enough that I can live for 3 or 4 years. And I'm like, that could give you 3 to 4 years to start something new, figure out what you want to do, and not be stressed for the next 3 to 4 years. She's like, yeah, but I can't sell yet. I'm not ready. I have too much to do. And I said, I'm sorry, honey, it's a website. There's always things to do. You're never going to be done. You're going to be done the day you sell it. That's
Yeah.
just the way it is. And I said, or option 3 is you hire people to do this stuff that's driving you nuts that you hate doing, so you can work on doing what you want to do.
Yeah.
So those are your 3 options. That's where you're at. And so we chatted. It was about 20 minutes. She's like, you're right. She's like, tonight I'm hiring somebody. She's like, I'm hiring two people. I said, well, hire your one, and then have, because there's, like with websites, and there's always stuff changing or things that need to be fixed and stuff like that. So I said, so hire your one to do all your admin work that's been driving you nuts today that you hate doing. And then have somebody that's kind of casual part-time that you can contact, a freelancer, to say, hey, I've got this problem with my website. Can you fix it? Hey, this is kind of not working right. Whatever, those types of things. And you have somebody that you can kind of have on call, but hire your admin person and take care of all those things that you don't want to do.
Yeah, and a little bit off of that. You know what? One of my first things that I tell most self-employed people they need to do is they need to hire somebody, just in general.
Mm-hmm.
Great. If they take off the crap that you don't want to do, that's awesome. That's an added benefit. But there's a real value in having an employee, or multiple employees, but having somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And that is this. The number one thing that self-employed people struggle with is that we have the freedom to do what we want every day.
Yeah.
All right. And when we're
Mhm.
accountable to nobody other than ourselves, it's really easy to say, I'm going to do that tomorrow, and I'm going golfing today.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever your thing is, it's so easy to do that. And what I've found, and I've had multiple times in my life, especially the last 12 years, where it was just me.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have any employees. I sold the companies, and I had nobody that I was accountable to. And I can tell you that on average, those days were way less productive than the days where I had somebody that was coming to work at 8 for me, that I had to be accountable to them. Because if I wasn't in the office working, they're not working.
Right.
They're certainly not working as hard as they would be if I was there. So not only does it give you the ability to do more of what you want to be spending your time doing, but it also is going to make you put more output out.
Yeah, I agree. I remember at one point I was having a number of people working for me. And there were days I was thinking, shit, I got to get all this stuff done because they're going to need it tomorrow, or they're waiting on me to get something to them so they can do their job. And so it does put more pressure in a good way to make sure that things are done, so then they can do what they needed to do. At that time, I didn't have all of my standard operating procedures and things done. I brought in a number of interns at the same time, which probably wasn't the best idea at the time, but I ended up getting a lot done, pushed through, they got it done. And it definitely was a learning experience for sure. But I was more productive then because it was accountability. I had to. And then not only that, but it was also, I need to make sure that I'm making more than enough money because I'm paying them. They're depending on me for a paycheck to make sure the work is done, to bring in the money, to also employ them as well.
Yeah. And, and also be careful what you wish for too.
Mm-hmm.
When I started my insurance brokerage in 2009, my goal in that, trying to figure out that vision standpoint, my goal was all financially driven. It was all about, how do I get to the point where I'm going to make $500,000? That's my first big goal. Your vision should not all be about monetary. It should also be about time. What will you be doing at that point you're drawing the picture from? I figured out that in order for me to make that type of money, and for me to not have to be out selling every day doing the same thing, which is not what I wanted to be doing, that I needed to have a whole bunch of insurance agents work for me. And so as fast as I could, I built a recruiting system, a marketing system. I had all the structure for them. And really quickly, in under 2 years, I had 30 insurance agents working for me, and we were cranking business out. And I was thinking, man, I got there way faster than I thought I would. And then I looked around and realized that all I'd really done was I had built myself a large adult daycare where I had to babysit their finances and their emotions and pat them on the back and kick them in the butt in order to pay for the job that I'd now created for myself.
Yeah,
And I realized really quickly then that my vision of what I wanted my company to look like was going to be a lot different on this new revamp of my vision. And so, I mean, that's another, I accidentally came across that, but that's another big vision, or I guess recommendation I'd tell people is, as you're painting that vision, money doesn't get you everything. You
No.
got to have money and the control of your time at the same time. And if you just write that on a sticky note, put it on the corner of your monitor of your computer, and live and die by all your decisions on that, if it's not driving you towards that. And some people are different. Some people it is just, I want to be the biggest and the wealthiest person I can. And there are those people out there. You know, it's a value system everybody's got to figure out for themselves.
Right. And that's right. Because what's for me, it's balance. I mean, to me, the definition of success, and I think generally as society, we need to change that definition. It is, you know, having the ability to do what I want, when I want, but the freedom to not have to be a slave to anybody. Like, I don't need to be making millions and millions of dollars. I don't want to be going to work 12 hours a day, be exhausted, or 18 hours, come home, go to bed, then do it all over again the next day. And sure, I've got, you know, millions in the bank, but I'm not enjoying it. That's not life. To me, it's not good. I want to be able to go on holidays, spend time with my family, go for dinners, you know, do those things, go lay on the beach for an afternoon, because, you know, life is good and it's comfortable.
Yep. I was the first person, you know, in my 20s, it was all about making the dollar. And then I lost, you know, one of my very best friends at a very early age in life, and realized that tomorrow wasn't, you know, guaranteed, and, you know, that all that stuff. And it changed my psyche on, you know, my value system. So anyway.
And no, and it's true. And I think, like, we all know, you know, we're not going to live forever. We never know when it's going to happen, but until it happens to us personally, we kind of don't really, we're like, yeah, we know. But when all of a sudden it's somebody close to you that passes away, it's kind of like that extra kind of punch in the gut, or that hit in the face that just thinks, shit, it's real. Like, yeah, we know everybody's going to die eventually, but we just don't really put it into perspective until it happens very, very close to us. And yeah. I unfortunately have experienced that many, many times over in my life. And so that's why part of me is, I do what I do, and I travel so much, and I go places, and I'm self-employed because I'm like, I don't want anybody telling me what to do, how often I can go on vacation, when I can do what. Like, there's no way. And I've kind of had the entrepreneurship in me since I was like a kid. I remember kids used to make fun of me at school, saying that I would push my lawnmower around, asking people to mow lawns more than I would walk my dog.
My first business was collecting money.
Collecting money.
Yeah, I was like 9 years old, I think. And I just went around the entire neighborhood, knocked on the door, and said, I'm collecting money. I was a cute little 9-year-old kid. And I had this whole little box full of cash. I don't know how much money it was, wow. $50 or something. And I came home and I was really proud, and I showed my mom, and she lost her mind. And I had to go back to every single one of those houses and give them all their money back. But yeah, I think it's a thing it's put into you really early in life.
Yeah.
Where it came from, because neither one of my parents were business owners or entrepreneurs. I don't know where that came from, but
I'm the only one in my family. And even out of all of my friends, well, until I left Canada, then I started to meet more people and stuff who were self-employed. But growing up and even after school into my early years, I was the only one. I remember working at home back in, like, I don't know, early 2000, and people would call me and my friends, and I'd be like, okay, I need to go, I'm working. And they would say, but you're at home. And I said, yes, you drive to work. I just go up the stairs in my house to my office. I just don't need to drive.
Yep.
And it was like a concept that they didn't really understand.
Yeah. So you're from Canada originally. I didn't know
originally that. Canada. Yeah. I left 12 years ago. Yeah, about that. Mhm.
All right, well, that's why it took me a while for I could even tell you weren't even from the States, because you don't have, you don't, the only thing you're missing is the A. I haven't heard you say A at the end of any of your statements
You
yet.
know, it's one of those things even when I was living there, it's not something I've ever said often. I don't know why. I always said, I remember when I was younger, I joked. And I remember when I was in high school, I was joking with my friends and I said, I think I've been switched at birth. And they're like, what? Your parents aren't your parents? And I said, no, I'm just kidding. I said, but I'm not, I said, I'm not meant to live here. Like I hate winter. I hate being cold. There's something that tells me in my soul, my gut, everything. I'm not meant to live in this country for my entire life.
Yeah. Yeah. I've always said that about living in Iowa, because it's the same weather as Canada almost.
Mhm.
And I got out, moved out a few different states, but I never went to California. I never went to Florida. I never went to Arizona. I never went even in the States to the right climate where it just seems like, man, life would be happier. But, and unfortunately, I have a daughter. And as soon as those roots start growing in the ground, those
Then
options.
you're there for a while. Then you're there.
Yeah,
You're definitely
pot
there.
committed. Yeah, pot committed.
Yeah. So what would you say for most businesses then is their biggest expense?
Their time.
Their time.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's not even close. You know, somebody may, without thinking about it, they may rattle off, it's my lease payment or my rent. That's not, or your advertising. Those aren't your basic expenses. I'm working on a project right now that I spend about $10,000 a month between my salary for a CMO and our ad budget for social media.
Mhm.
And for the last 3 months, we went back and forth on what our marketing approach should be. What should our messages be? Really, almost what should our product be? And tweaking that.
Mhm.
And he, who's not writing the check, is really happy with our results. So, dude, we're making a lot of headway. We're learning lots of things, and we're starting to compile this database of prospects and people that we can email on a funnel basis. And he's really happy with that. And I, the person who's writing the checks, I'm sitting here thinking, dude, forget the $30,000 that I've spent over the last 3 months. The real expense is we just lost 3 months.
Yeah, that time you can't.
It's time. And that's why all the things we've even talked about already on this phone call of making sure that you know what your right things you should be spending your time on today are, this week are they really focused you on getting to that end game, that goal? Because if they're not, that's your biggest expense all day long. And most people don't realize that, especially 20s and 30-year-olds.
Right.
Don't realize that, because time is,
We've got tons of
it's
time forever.
it's forever, right? And then you start getting older, and your value things change, and you realize, holy crap, there's a clock ticking. I got to hurry up and get.
And it goes by fast.
Yeah,
Like
the older, it's scientifically proven that the older we get, the faster time goes.
Mhm.
You ever read that stuff?
I haven't read it, but I mean, it's like, I feel it. I know it. I remember being a kid, my birthday's in the summertime, and from my birthday to Christmas seemed
Right.
like forever. And now
Yeah.
I just had my birthday. It's Christmas already. What?
Right.
Like I've been working on a project and I kind of put it off. I'm like, I'm just going to put it off for a few weeks, focus on a few other things that I've been working on. And then I look back and I thought, that was 2 months ago. Like I have done nothing I thought it was like, it feels like it's been a few weeks.
Right.
And it was 2 months ago already.
Yep. Yep. I guarantee you there's a 25-year-old that's watching us have this conversation right now, and they're rolling their eyes.
Yeah.
It was 25 yesterday. So.
Ironically though, the person who told me at first about time, saying time goes by faster as you get older, I was in junior high, she was in high school, and we were a couple of years apart. So we knew each other in junior high. She must have been 2 years older than me. And I ran into her, it was like on the bus. And she just says, oh my gosh, time is just starting to go by so fast. She said, you don't even realize it. And she was noticing it in high school. Yeah, and that was the first time that I heard that. And I just thought, wow, really? And it brought it to my attention. So it's always been kind of there in my mind since I was quite young. because she brought it to my attention. And so I noticed it more and more and more the older I got.
You should look her up on social media and find out what she's doing today and talk with her. I bet you she is a worldly, wisdom giving, smart, successful person, because they're realizing in high school.
Mm-hmm. I just, you know what, just as you said that, it just popped into my mind now. I totally forgotten about it, but it just popped in. And I remember we were on the bus and I saw her and that's what she said. It's
she owns a large company right now, I guarantee
probably. Yeah, I'm definitely going to have to go back and look her up. But, you know, I think that is the perfect kind of note to end things on. Is time is our most valuable asset. We need to have a plan of where we want to be, the steps to put into place to what we need to do to use it the best that we can use it.
Yeah, it's definitely our biggest commodity.
So Jeremy, where can, if people wanted to get in touch with you or follow you on social media, where can they, or what are the best ways for them to get in touch with you?
Yeah, no, it's probably my YouTube channel. I've got a YouTube channel where I put a lot of stuff on. Some of it's not industry specific. I put out a video last week, a 7-minute video about the first 7 steps somebody who is self-employed should do. That'd be it. I mean, it's universal for all businesses.
Mm-hmm.
My YouTube channel is Jeremy Smith Academy. You can look me up through there. You can message me through there. I've got a website that's the same. It's Jeremy Smith Academy. But yeah,
and we'll put those links in the show notes to make it easy for people.
Awesome. It's great talking with you.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Jeremy, and thank you very much for your time.
Talk soon. Thank you.